Let's talk about Hawaii and the tragedy that took place on the island of Maui. And I'm going to start off at the top here with my condolences to the families that lost loved ones. Because what I'm going to say might come off as mean or distasteful, and in no way am I victim blaming the residents of Lahaina. The death toll has surpassed 100 plus. And if you can donate, please do, because they have no power, no internets. No, people are getting the runaround by their insurance companies. And Grandpa Biden's $700 check is just enough for a week's stay at a shitty hotel. No? And to all my conspiracy heads out there, maybe just wait 48 hours, before saying it was Chinese space lasers and the WEF trying to make 15-minute cities. No, because you could have made a more believable conspiracy with the actual facts that happened. Which the cause of these fires was bad infrastructure, poor preparation, and Mother Nature. And that brings me to my hot take here. You vote for people that don't care about you, Hawaii. Hawaii has been a Democrat stronghold since it was given statehood back in 1959. From 1959 to present, there has only been 2 Republican House representatives elected in Hawaii. Both were in the 1st district in Maui, where the event took place as part of the 2nd. From 1959 to present, there has only been 1 Republican elected to Senate, and that was in 1959. Since 1959, there have only been 2 Republican governors. And the reason that all that is relevant, because of policy. Policy matters. Good policy is what keeps a state functioning. And one of the most important policies a state makes is fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is basically how the state spends your hard-earned dollars because they tax the shit out of you. And Hawaii is one of the top 5 states with the highest taxes. So I was looking at the data. If you make $150,000 or less a year, you're paying 8 to 7% in state income tax. If you add in federal income tax on top of that, your yearly income is getting taxed 27 to 30%. That's insane, dude. And that's not adding in sales tax, gas tax, liquor tax, tobacco tax, property tax, payroll tax on both federal and state. Where's that money going? With how much Hawaiians get taxed, the infrastructure should be a non-issue. Period, dude. Those power lines should have been fixed decades ago. Companies that provide utilities are subsidized and regulated by the Public Utilities Commission of the state. Hawaii Electric in 2022 was funded $189.7 million to help fix the power grid statewide, but failed to do so. Why? Who knows? But I bet it has to do with the fact that in 2015, Democrats, the House and the Senate, passed legislation in Hawaii that mandated that Hawaii Electric Company derive 100% of its electricity from renewable energy sources by 2045. 80% of Hawaii's energy is derived from petroleum. That's insane. And you can blame the electrical company all you want, but elected officials deserve some of the blame. All this was preventable, but policy and your elected officials not doing their job got in the way. These are the people you vote for. And I'm sorry to tell you, but Democrats don't care about you. Like I said earlier, with how much the residents of Hawaii get taxed, their infrastructure should be top notch. Where's that money going to? No, I'll tell you where it's going to. It's going to fund welfare. Hawaii is a welfare state. And there's nothing wrong with taking care of the poor, but when it becomes a perpetual state of existence, those governmental agencies go from assisting you to a business. They need to keep a majority of Hawaiians in a state of poverty so they can continue to gain federal funding and have a reason to constantly raise their taxes. So let's look at this chart. So, Hawaii is spending per capita, and that is per person, $2,500 per person in public welfare. Hawaii's population is 1.5 million. That's a lot of money if you do the math. And how much are they spending on infrastructure per person? Well, if we look over here, it looks like highways and roads is about $750 per person. Now, if we scroll down, most of that money comes from federal taxes, of course, but the next in line is your sales tax and your income tax. No, that means the Hawaiian citizens are paying your state government to keep you in poverty. So if they invested as much money as they do in public welfare to infrastructure, it would bring down public welfare because they would be creating jobs that don't depend on tourism. But hey, why would they do that, right? That would affect other governmental jobs that depend on your poverty for funding. They don't care about you. They need to keep you in poverty so they can continue to rack in $18.8 billion. No, and the way they keep you in poverty is high taxes. So your nose is barely above water, making $70,000 a year. That's the poverty line in Hawaii, is $70,000 a year. Give the government more money so we can misspend it and give you enough to barely scrape by. So, here's what I think is going to happen in Lahaina. The state is going to come in and buy land for pennies on the dollar. They will build their 15-minute city. The wealthy will live in high sky-rise condos that were built with your tax dollars and that the wealthy now own. The poor that qualify will live in Section 8 housing and rent-controlled apartments within the 15-minute city. The jobs in that area will pay you enough to make rent, buy food, and occasionally enjoy amenities. But you will never make enough to save up to buy a car, a condo of your own, or save for retirement. Generation after generation will live in continual poverty because poverty is how they control you and keep you sucking on the governmental teat. That's a little morbid, but that is more realistic to me than what they are currently trying to sell the residents of Lahaina.
My intention from start to finish is to make sure that no one is victimized from a land grab, that we do not suffer predation against those who are suffering. So I've instructed the Attorney General to work toward a moratorium on any transactions. There's some legal challenges there. We're going to push right through those and make sure that people don't lose their land here in Hawaii. That is central. I've been speaking to leaders all across our state, and that's important to everyone. What that means is
nobody's forcing them to sell the land.
We're going to make sure that there are no transactions that take advantage of our people, and we're going to give you some definitive answers by Friday about how hard I can lock that down. That doesn't mean we don't want people to come and invest in Hawaii and travel to Hawaii.
No, you just want to be able to say how much you can sell the land for.
We'll talk about that in a moment. What it means is people are right now traumatized. Please don't approach them with an offer to buy land. Please don't approach their families to tell them that they're going to be better off if they make a deal, because we're not going to allow it. And then between myself and I'm sure the mayor, we're not going to allow people to get permits. Forgive me for speaking for mayor, but I know he's a tough guy. We're not going to allow people to take advantage. And it's going to be a very significant amount of time anyway in the recovery before building could be done. So don't make the mistake of testing us in that space, please.
Okay. So are you going to cut property taxes for the residents of Lahaina? Are you going to give them money to rebuild? Are you going to provide them with shelter during the rebuilding process? Because the residents are not going to be able to afford all that on their own. And if you're not going to provide them with that, the only other option they have is to sell. And if you cut off private investors from coming in and buying up land from landowners, you will deprive them of the option of bargaining for the best price. Because the only option they will have is selling to the government. And Economics 101, if there is supply but no demand, your property isn't worth shit. It's only worth what the buyer is willing to pay. And if Grandpa Biden was only willing to supply you with $700 in aid, that should tell you what they think that your property is worth. So, remember, when the governmental land grab starts, that is what you voted for.